You've felt it. Your eyes snap open and somehow it's exactly 2 minutes before your alarm goes off. It feels like a sixth sense, some built-in psychic clock nobody ever taught you to use. It's not psychic, it's a countdown your own cells have been quietly running all night. Deep in your brain sits a cluster of cells smaller than a grain of rice running your whole life. It's called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and it is, quite literally, your body's master clock. By the end of this, you'll know the exact chemical that jolts you awake before any alarm rings. This nucleus sits right above where your optic nerves cross, so it can track light hitting your eyes. Every morning, sunlight floods in and resets it, locking your body to a roughly 24-hour loop. That same light also shuts off melatonin production, the hormone that had been keeping you asleep. But the clock itself doesn't run on nerve signals firing constantly, it runs on pure chemistry. Inside nearly every cell you have, a molecular hourglass is quietly ticking, one protein at a time. That protein's called PER, short for period, and its levels rise and fall like clockwork. Scientists first found this gene in fruit flies back in 1971, and it rewrote biology textbooks. This same clock mechanism, just slightly tweaked, runs inside everything from bacteria to blue whales. In 2017, 3 researchers won the Nobel Prize for finally explaining exactly how this clock works. Picture a graph living inside every one of your cells, tracking that one protein across 24 hours. All day long, PER quietly piles up inside your cells, climbing higher with every passing hour. By nightfall it peaks, then collapses fast, and that collapse is your internal clock ticking. That rise and crash loop is the actual mechanism scientists uncovered behind your circadian rhythm. When PER finally drops low enough, it sends a biochemical signal. It's almost time to wake up. So no, it's not a sixth sense, it's a stopwatch built out of literal protein chemistry. And this clock isn't some flimsy theory, scientists have physically proven it controls your wake time. In a wild experiment, researchers removed the master clock from a hamster's brain entirely. They transplanted it into a totally different hamster, and its sleep cycle switched to match the donor's. That transplant proved the clock isn't just influenced by the brain, it literally is the brain's timer. So you've got a protein clock ticking in your cells, synced by a physical timer in your brain. But ticking alone doesn't explain the jolt, that sudden, wide-awake feeling seconds before your alarm. For that, your body needs something faster and louder than a protein slowly draining away. Enter cortisol, yes, the stress hormone you've heard blamed for everything from acne to anxiety. Cortisol isn't just a stress hormone though, it's also your body's built-in alarm siren. Blood pressure and heart rate creep upward too, quietly prepping your body for the demands of being awake. Every morning, cortisol rises to make you feel alert, raise blood pressure, and unlock stored energy. This daily rise is called the cortisol awakening response, and it can start before you even open your eyes. In that window, cortisol can climb by more than 50%, a real, measurable hormonal spike. But here's the part that should genuinely blow your mind. Your brain can predict when to start it. In a landmark sleep study, researchers told volunteers they'd be woken up at either 6 a.m. or 9 a.m. Nature published the results in 1999, and the finding was stranger than the quiet title let on. People expecting a 6 a.m. wake-up started pumping out cortisol nearly an hour before that time, automatically. Then the scientists pulled the rug out and secretly woke everyone up way earlier than planned. The cortisol surge still showed up right on the original expected time, not the surprise one. Your endocrine system had already scheduled the wake-up, it didn't care that the plan changed. Somewhere in your brain, a countdown had already started before you were even conscious of it. That's the real trick behind waking up before your alarm, cortisol quietly ramping up in advance. Your body isn't guessing the time, it's rehearsing your entire morning before it even happens. And this isn't some rare gift a lucky few have, it's baked into everyone's biology. The more consistent your wake time, the sharper and more precise this anticipation gets. This is also shaped by your chronotype, whether your biology naturally leans toward lark or night owl. Miss the same wake-up time for weeks straight and the prediction gets fuzzy, weak, or disappears entirely. If you've never noticed this yourself, don't worry. Deep sleep and irregular schedules can easily mask it. This is also why waking up naturally feels so much gentler than getting blasted awake by noise. A sudden alarm forces your nervous system into a jolt it wasn't fully braced for yet. Anticipatory waking lets cortisol ease you up gradually, like a dimmer switch instead of a light snapping on. So why would evolution build something this precise into a sleeping, defenseless human body at all? Because for most of human history, the hour before dawn was actually the most dangerous one. Predators hunted at twilight, temperatures dropped, and threats moved while your ancestors lay asleep and exposed. A brain that could preempt danger and rouse the body early had a genuine survival edge. So that jolt-awake feeling might be a few 100,000 years of ancestors surviving one more dawn. Sleep itself sets you up for this too. It isn't one long uniform block of unconsciousness. You cycle through stages roughly every 90 minutes, and sleep gets progressively lighter as morning approaches. By your final cycle before waking, you're already hovering right at the edge of consciousness. That's why the anticipatory cortisol surge only needs a gentle nudge to tip you into full alertness. It's not one mechanism doing all the work, it's hormones and sleep stages quietly cooperating. Which raises an obvious question. If your body's this precise, why do you even own an alarm clock? Because modern life keeps breaking the very system that used to work so reliably. Shift work, red-eye flights, and blue light from your phone all scramble the signal your clock relies on. Jet lag is basically your suprachiasmatic nucleus arriving in a new time zone, days behind your actual body. Sleeping in most weekends creates something researchers call social jet lag, confusing the clock all over again. And hitting snooze repeatedly doesn't just cost you minutes, it confuses the entire anticipatory system. Every snooze resets the countdown, so your brain never quite knows which wake-up time to prepare for. Which brings us, regrettably, to Kevin, who owns 16 alarms spaced 4 minutes apart, starting at 5 a.m. Kevin has never once heard the first 14. His body stopped bothering to warn him years ago. Anyway, most of us aren't Kevin, and our bodies really are running this quiet prediction every single night. Here's the graph our own cortisol draws, hour by hour, while we sleep completely unaware. It stays low for hours, flat and quiet, while your body rests deep in the night. Then, time to your usual wake-up, it bends sharply upward, long before the alarm fires. By now, the pattern should be obvious. Your body was never just reacting to mornings, it was predicting them. So the next time you snap awake right before your alarm, that's not luck, and it's definitely not magic. That's a protein clock, a hormone surge, and a survival instinct all lining up in total silence. Your body rehearsed your entire wake-up before your conscious mind ever clocked in for the day. It timed it, staged it, and fired the cortisol right on schedule, then let the alarm take the credit. Your alarm clock has been getting credit for a performance your own biology rehearsed for hours. There's something almost tender about that, a body quietly preparing you before you even know you're leaving sleep. Every single morning, some ancient piece of you is already awake, already watching, already counting down. The alarm doesn't wake you up. It just interrupts a wake-up that had already begun.